Hey everyone, so I'm pretty surprised to still be saying this, but 3.13 is still in PTU and we're still getting bug fix patches as they work on getting it to a state where it's good enough to go live. A lot of these bug fixes seem to be related to the constellation and how its snubcraft can mess with a lot of the other parts of the game, but one change that I was really excited to see that I wasn't expecting to see until much later in the year is not directly related to that, and that's some improvements with the functionality of cargo lifts on ships that happen to have lifts instead of ramps. So partially because of that, and also just because I haven't taken the time to check out the new caves yet, I wanted to make this video to show off these fixed lifts in action, and also try out rock mining in the new caves. Before we start though, if you do enjoy this video, or if it helps you out, please consider leaving a like and or subscribing, I really appreciate it. So to start off, I just want to remind you all how vehicle elevators currently behave in 3.12 if you're lucky enough to have not tried using them. The answer is they do not behave well at all. Now, most of these issues with the vehicle bouncing around and just generally going crazy tend to go away if you have someone sitting in the vehicle as the lift is going up, but as a solo player that's usually not an option and it's really inconvenient as a workaround. So this issue has made it pretty much impossible to use certain ships that should be decent or even great for carrying around a Grey Cat rock from mineral deposit to mineral deposit. Pretty much any ship with a lift would behave like this, so it made it so that you couldn't really use the Nomad, any of the constellations, or the 600i for rock mining, which is a shame because all of them would have been able to do the job just fine, if not for this issue. In the current version of the PTU, which is already on the letter R, it seems like they fixed it though, at least for now. It's not guaranteed that once they get all the other bug fixes in and release it that it'll still be working though, because I know that they've fixed it in the past and then it's gone and broken again between now and then, but I really hope that this time the elevators stay functional, at least for a little while. While they are in this functional state, it opens up the option to use a wider variety of ships, and even though the Constellations and 600i can do a decent job as being a rock transport, I think the Nomad is really the great option that this opens up for now. I'd say it's at least as good as the Cutlass, which before was my go-to because it's also not too big to be inconvenient to land with or fly around in, and it doesn't take too long to get in and out of since the pilot seat isn't too far away from the entry ramp. But yeah, now that the Nomad's lift won't destroy the rock when you load it, it's also a really solid option. It's decently nimble and it's really easy to land since it's smaller than the Cutlass and you have the weird hover landing gear, which means that you can kind of just slam this thing down on the ground, and you can even start lowering the lift on your way out with this neat button on the inside. Also, it runs smaller size components than the Cutlass, which means that although it's less capable in some areas like overall shielding, it has a much lower signature generally, which can be nice if you don't want people to find you and try to steal your precious hadonite. I did have the rock bounce around a couple of times as I was raising the lift, but I think the times that this happened were just caused by the rock's front door being open and colliding with stuff on the way up, so as long as you make sure that that's closed and the mining arm is properly retracted, I think you should be fine, but even on those occasions when it was jumping around slightly, nothing catastrophic happened. It's much better than it used to be. Unfortunately, I don't think you can rent the Nomad as of now, so the Cutlass will still be the go-to ship if you're looking to rent something, but if you're looking to buy a vehicle to fly your rock around, I think the Nomad is a great option at 950,000 Alpha UEC. Now back to the main topic of this video, I headed over to the cave on Daymar that's right next to the Kudre Ore mining facility. So if you've been looking for the caves in the PTU but weren't able to find them, this one's a good one to come check out since it's right next to the quantum beacon for the actual mining buildings. But yeah, I don't blame you if you've been having trouble because as far as I can tell, none of the other caves are marked or near anything marked, and the only real way to find them is to happen to spot them from orbit if they happen to be on the light side of whichever moon that they're on at that time, or the reliable way is to get a mission that'll take you there. But yeah, it is kind of frustrating how they talk about how they've added all these new entrances but don't really give you an easy way to find them. But if any of you guys have done a lot of scouting and know how to reliably find some of the other caves, go ahead and leave that in the comments, I'd really appreciate that. Alright, so this one here on Daymar is actually a bit smaller than I expected, and getting the Connie all the way down was pretty difficult. There was a ledge about halfway down that I landed on at first to try to scout around, and this one wasn't too hard to get to, but I couldn't see any sort of ramp or other way to get to the lower part of the cave with a ground vehicle, so I had to maneuver the Constellation all the way down to the bottom. It was doable with a little bit of patience and lining things up, but I don't think anything larger than this would really be able to fit. I think some of the other caves elsewhere are a bit bigger though, since I've seen shots of a Carrack down in some of these entrances, so I guess this one is just on the smaller side. Once I got down to the bottom here though, I think the best part was the view. It was really cool seeing the night sky from all the way down here at the bottom of this hole and all the stars in the skyline. And even with all the headlights and jagged rocks, the lighting still looks really good, so they've definitely been doing some good work on that. Even if these caves aren't super useful yet, they're definitely nice to look at. So in terms of gameplay down here though, unfortunately this is one of those instances where most of the gameplay related things are just going to come later. Now there are FPS combat missions, so that is one thing to do, but in terms of rock mining, these aren't really ready for it yet. This makes sense since they've said that these are only the entrances and they're going to be working on adding vehicle-sized caverns later on. But yeah, mining down here in a rock is not really the best experience yet. You can drive around, and there are a few mineral patches to collect, and I even managed to find a cave that was meant for on-foot exploration, and I could get down a little ways into there and collect some of the smaller hand minables. But that cave quickly got too small, and that was the only entrance I could find down in this pit besides the main area. Also, there's not really any reason to mine in these caves instead of just mining on the surface of a moon with good mineral deposits like Aberdeen or Ariel over near Hurston, because at the moment the density of the minerals in these caves just isn't high enough to be worth the effort. I hope that in the future, when they're working on vehicle mining in caves, that they do something like add another mineral type, and I think that would make sense, since right now the rock can only mine Hadanite, Dolovine, and Aphrite, so that's a pretty slim selection. I think it would make sense lore-wise that there would be some sort of more valuable resource that could only be found in caves, and that would be a great incentive to make people consider cave mining as an alternative to normal rock mining, which is already pretty lucrative. So yeah, while you can do a bit of mining in these caves at the moment, they're mainly just a cool looking point of interest. Now for this last part, I just want to quickly bring up the upcoming ROC DS for a moment, since one of its features is going to be that the arm is a bit fancier than the one on the normal rock, and because you have a miner on it, it's also going to be better for cave mining because you'll actually be able to reach hard to get places and be able to see into them as well, since the operator has a better viewpoint. Now we haven't actually gotten the official information about it yet, and I'm sure we'll get that soon when it goes on sale, but at the moment I think this benefit is actually going to be pretty hard to realize. One thing that will be nice about it for sure is that you'll probably actually be able to see the mining UI as the laser operator, since the HUD will most likely move with the laser operator. And this is one thing that can be really annoying with the normal rock. I oftentimes find myself unable to see the mining HUD on the rock since it doesn't really move when you move the mining arm. So if I'm looking down at the ground to collect or fracture a rock, it can be pretty difficult to see, and that can be kind of a pain. So yeah, hopefully on the DS you won't be having that issue. Also, the normal rock can be a bit unstable with only 4 wheels and a pretty short wheelbase, so the DS should be a little bit harder to flip with its 6 wheels, but I think that's basically where the DS's advantages stop. It's pretty significantly bigger than the normal rock, so that definitely could be an issue in caves in the future, and it definitely is with how caves are at the moment, since I was barely able to fit with the normal rock here. Also, those 6 wheels make me think that its turning radius can't be that great either, especially with how bad the normal rocks is already. And then you just have its general disadvantages, like the laser not being able to be controlled from the driver's seat, and just how completely exposed to the elements and dangerous mining process that laser operator is. It also probably won't be able to be carried in some of the more nimble ships that can carry the normal rock, so like the Nomad, Cutlass, and Freelancers. So yeah, it's gonna have to be a pretty strong pitch from CIG when they sell this thing to make me like it. They've talked about buffing its laser power and cargo capacity, so those could be reasons to buy it, but they're gonna have to be pretty significant benefits over the normal rock to make it worth having either the 2 operators or the inconvenience of switching seats whenever you want to mine stuff. So yeah, at the moment I don't think it's going to be all that useful of a vehicle, but who knows, with the details that they give us when it goes on sale, it could actually be something decent, so we'll have to keep a lookout for that. Okay, so overall, while these new caves don't have a ton of gameplay yet, they definitely are promising, and I'm going to be looking forward to seeing more complete cavern systems in the future. I also just had a lot of fun visiting them, especially with the Constellation. It's really a fun experience to fly somewhere in a bigger ship and then have the option of flying around the place in a smaller ship that you brought with you, or driving around on the ground. And while this experience isn't perfect in every way yet, this elevator bug fix is definitely a step in the right direction. So let me know in the comments about your experiences with caves, or what you think about rock mining in the future, or about the upcoming ROC DS. Anyway, that's all I have for this video. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.